You know, I've often wondered if the most important decisions in our lives aren't really decisions at all. They're more like a whisper, a quiet, persistent thought that you try to ignore, but it just won't let you go. For me, that whisper was a number. $2 million. That's what my parents had invested in me, their entire life's savings. And I was about to walk into their house and tell them I was quitting my job, my safe, prestigious, well-paying job on Wall Street, to start an online bookstore. I remember sitting in my car outside their place, my hands gripping the steering wheel. The weight of it was physical. It wasn't just a career risk. It was a betrayal of their trust, their sacrifice. How do you look the people who believed in you most in the world and tell them you're going to gamble it all on an idea most people would call insane? That fear, that feeling of being utterly, terrifyingly responsible, it didn't start there. It started much earlier. I was a kid, spending summers on my grandfather's ranch in Texas. He was a man who could fix anything. A rocket scientist, they called him, at the agency. But out there, he was a rancher. And he taught me about real work. I remember we had to castrate bulls. It was grim, messy work. But he showed me how to do it, how to see it through. There's a lesson in that. You don't walk away from the hard, ugly things. You lean in. And my mother, she had me when she was 17. People looked down on her. They doubted her. But she had this fierce, quiet determination. She went back to college, got her degree. She showed me what resilience looks like. Not as a grand gesture, but as a daily choice. That curiosity, that need to build, it was always there. I turned our garage into a science lab. I rigged an electric alarm on my bedroom door with a bunch of spare parts. I was constantly taking things apart, trying to understand how they worked. The world was a puzzle, and I was desperate to solve it. So, fast forward to 1994. I'm at D.E. Shaw, a hedge fund. I had the corner office, the career path, everything you're supposed to want. And I was miserable, because I had stumbled upon this statistic, this thing. Web usage was growing by 2,300% a year. 2,300%. I remember just staring at that number on my screen. It was like seeing the future, and it was screaming at me to get on the train. And that's when the whisper started. What about books? Millions of titles. No single store could hold them all. The internet could. People thought I was crazy. My boss did. He was a brilliant man. He took me for a long walk in Central Park. He listened to my idea and he said, "Jeff, that sounds like a really good idea, but it would be a better idea for someone who didn't already have a good job." He wasn't wrong. It was a huge gamble, but I knew with a certainty I can't even explain that if I didn't try, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I'd be 80 years old, looking back, and that thought was more terrifying to me than any failure. So I made the choice. The regret minimization framework, I called it. I had to jump. So I did. I told my parents, and to their eternal credit, they didn't try to stop me. They were scared, I know they were, but they invested. They took that leap of faith with me. And then, we were in a garage, in Bellevue, Washington. Me, a few programmers, and a bunch of desks I built myself out of old doors. The first website was simple. We called it Cadabra for a while. Then, Amazon, the mighty river, flowing to every corner of the earth. It felt right. But the river was rocky at the start. I remember those nights, the sound of the packing tape gun. Shkrip. Over and over. We'd pack the books on our knees, on the concrete floor. We'd drive them to the post office ourselves at 2 a.m., just to make sure they went out. There was no grand plan for world domination. There was just the next order, the next customer, making sure one person, somewhere, got their book on time. We were losing money for years. The doubt was a constant low hum in the background. The articles, Amazon.toast, they called us, a dot-com bubble about to burst. I'd read them and my stomach would tighten. Were they right? Was I leading all these people, all these believers, off a cliff? The pressure was immense. There were days I felt like I couldn't breathe. I'd go for a walk, just to clear my head, and the fear would walk right alongside me. But we kept going. We obsessed over the customer. It was our mantra. If we focused on the customer, everything else would follow. We added music, then electronics. We launched Amazon Prime. People thought we were insane. 2-day shipping for a flat fee? You'll go bankrupt. But we saw it as an investment in trust, in convenience. It was that same whisper, the one that said, what if we could make it easier? What if we could build a place where you could find anything? And then, it started to work. The numbers began to turn. The letters started coming in. Not from investors, but from customers. A mother who found a rare book for her son's birthday. A student who saved money on textbooks. That's when it became real. That's when it stopped being about a company and started being about people. The success, the scale, it's hard to describe. It's like you build a small boat to cross a river, and by the time you reach the other side, it's turned into an ocean liner. You look back and you can't quite believe it. You can't believe people trusted you enough to get on board. And along the way, I made mistakes, plenty of them. Some small, some very public. I learned that building something big means you have a bigger responsibility. Your words carry weight. Your actions have consequences you never could have imagined in that garage. And you have to be humble enough to listen, to learn, to course correct. So, if you were to ask me what all of this was really about, it wasn't about books, or boxes, or even billions. It was about that whisper. It was about learning to listen to that quiet, persistent voice inside you, even when the whole world is shouting at you to be quiet. It's about looking at the hard, ugly tasks, the failures, the doubts, the long nights, and leaning in. Just like my grandfather taught me. Your journey won't look like mine. Your garage might be a small apartment, a notebook, a simple idea. That's more than enough. What matters is the choice. The choice to build, the choice to serve, the choice to jump, even when you're terrified. Because the things that truly change our lives, they almost always start as a whisper. Don't ignore it. Build your own ship and set sail.